During my career, I have had a fair amount of success in negotiations, which almost 100% comes down to this book. Everything I know, well, let's say 95% of what I know comes from this book, and this is what has helped me to save millions of euros during my work. In this video, we're going to go into the details of what this book is about so that you can become a better negotiator and get the results that you want. Welcome back to Smart Economics. My name is Gustav Kish. I'm a procurement commodity manager. I negotiate price list terms and conditions in my day job. And as everyone else, I guess, I started negotiating very poorly. Nobody's born a good negotiator, but it's a skill that can be improved. And I believe the reason why most people start as bad negotiators is that they see a bad example. They see positional bargaining. That is when, let's say, I say the price of something is 100 and you would say you're willing to pay 10, but then I would say it's at least 92. I'm not accepting anything less than that. And then you would say you're willing to pay 15. I said nothing less than 90, and then you would say you're willing to pay 17. Then I would say 82 might be reasonable, and then you would say 22 is the max you can give, and on it goes. Until eternity. And for good reason. A lot of people are using that because it doesn't really require a system, it doesn't really require thinking, it's easy, and this is the example that a lot of people see. But there are problems with this approach. Problem number one is it doesn't always get success. There's a good reason that the people doing this situational, positional thing are not able to come close enough to each other, and they're not able to meet in a place that is mutually beneficial for them. Second thing is it turns the parties into adversaries. Why is that? In order to close the deal quickly, you would be inclined to become a easy negotiator, being willing to give in to compromises so that you can close, so that you can at least close the deal. So the success can be had by being a tough negotiator and expecting the other party to come forward with those compromises. But if both parties are interested in being tough, then there's a lower and lower chance of actually meeting halfway or meeting in any reasonable space, and that creates two tough negotiators going head to head against each other. And this is why the parties become adversaries, they become enemies, and eventually degrading their relationship, their really important relationship. So this book was written by two gentlemen called Roger Fischel and William Ury, who are working and professors at Harvard, and they have worked in what's known as the Harvard Negotiating Project, which is a methodology designed to solve problems in a more cooperative way. The first thing that is being done in this system is separating the people from the problem, saying that I don't have a problem with the person that I'm dealing with. I don't feel anything against them. I even like them. I enjoy speaking with them. I enjoy this current conversation. But on the other hand, I do have interests, and I'm going to protect my interest, and I'm going to look for options that serve my interest, because this is why I'm here, and they are there to serve their interest, and that's absolutely okay. But we separate the people from the problem, eventually creating an atmosphere that is cooperative as opposed to being enemies and fighting each other. And then we're focusing on interests and not positions. So in the previous example, the price was the only variable, and then the positions in between 110, those were the positions, while the interest is not really anything concrete. My interest as a seller in the example would be to make a profit. The price point is secondary as long as I can make a profit. And the buyer would be interested in, essentially low price, but in optimized spending. So by looking at the problem as a non-one-dimensional problem, accepting that there is a problem space around that and it's multidimensional, we create the option to find solutions elsewhere than this one-dimensional line between two positions. We are inventing options, collaboratively exploring this problem space. And in order to do that, we need to separate the brainstorming from the decision making. We have to create an atmosphere when both of us can put things on the table and can brainstorm and come up with ideas without the obligation to treat those ideas as proposals. So in this atmosphere, it's very easy for me to put something on the table, only later to realize that I actually cannot agree with what I have put up. I can say that it's an option, but not one option that I'm willing to accept. And that's absolutely fine, because by putting up this option, even though I cannot accept it, it is part of brainstorming, and then the other party, which is not my opponent, but the other party could come up with an idea. This could spur a thinking in his mind to come up with an idea that is better than mine and one that I can accept. Without creating the atmosphere where people can come up with ideas, we might have never found this place in the problem space that is mutually beneficial for both of us. When looking at options, you need to look for options with mutual gain. It's not a win-lose, it's a win-win. All of these options that you come up with in order to be considered seriously would have to be options that are beneficial to both of you. They could be beneficial to a varying extent. So it could be that a solution to one part of the problem is more beneficial to me than it is to the other party, and the solution to the other problem is more beneficial for them than it is for me. But then we can start trading. I could trade a little bit on one option that is not really painful for me, but very important to my opponent. And they could in exchange give me something that is not really painful for them, but very important to me. And that way we both benefit from the discussion. When coming up with solutions, it's a very good idea to make it easy for them to agree. You have to create an atmosphere where for them, it seems like a good, logical solution to agree to something that is good for you and something that you have proposed. If it's not possible to do all of that and look for options with mutual gain, then it's a good idea to look at external factors for the decision of the few one-dimensional problems. At the end of the day, there will still be things that are one-dimensional. It's going to be a number somewhere between two extremes, but it's almost always possible to look at an index, look at some statistics, look at anything that is objective, something that's created by someone else, someone other than you, in order to decide the number that you are trying to agree on. Like there could be a blue book value for a car. You could decide the change of the rent by looking at inflation. You could come up with an option for the price of steel using an index that is available on the stock market. Whatever works for you, as long as it's an external factor and makes it very easy to agree, and as long as the two of you are assuming that it's a reasonable, fair index to use. And then there's a topic of the BATNA. The BATNA is best alternative to a negotiated agreement. In other words, what will I do if we fail to come to an agreement? It's very important to first know your BATNA, because when in the negotiation offers are being said, you can only accept offers that are better than your BATNA. If you don't know your BATNA very well, then you are running the risk of accepting offers that seem good but are actually worse than your BATNA, and that way you are losing money and losing benefits. If your BATNA is strong, then you can put it on the table. You can communicate it that you already have a very good plan B, so you don't actually need to agree with the other party. You could say that it is your interest to look at options which are better than the BATNA. If anything is worse than that, then it is in your interest to not accept that, and they wouldn't have anything against that, because your interests are then separated from yourself, and there's nothing they can argue about with interests. If your BATNA is weak, however, then it's also very important to know that, because the possible solutions of the problem space will be defined by that BATNA. But in that case, it's not a good idea to put it on the table. Instead, look at objective criteria and look at a systematical solution instead of positional bargaining. There's a few techniques to look out for. For example, using false information as truth. Some people do that. Some people keep mentioning statements that they tell you as reality, and if they say it enough times, you would believe that it is true, while in reality it could be not true. Never trust people until you have a reason to trust those people, and look out for these false truths. You can even call it out and tell them that it seems to you that this is not the case and they don't know it correctly. Don't call people liars, however, because that's personal. Instead of being personal, you could say what you are observing, because that's nothing that they can argue. It is your observation that what they are saying seems to be not true, and you have another information. Another technique is anchoring. That's when one of the parties will throw in a number in order for this number to be the first one that is heard, because then it gets anchored into people's minds, and later when they hear new offers, those new offers will be considered in comparison with the anchor, and you would think that an offer is good because it's better than the anchor, while in reality it's not objectively a good offer. And then they could add stress by either through the location or by personal insults. Adding stress through the location is, for example, meeting you in a place where it's noisy, or meeting you in a place where you are seated with your back towards the entrance, or meeting you in a place where the sun is in your eyes. Any other ways that would make you uncomfortable can be used as a tactic against you. These are called dirty tricks for a reason. There's many dirty tricks. I do not encourage using dirty tricks. It's not a reasonable approach to negotiations, but it's very important to be prepared to recognize a dirty trick when it is being used on you. Another way to add stress is by using personal insults. For example, they could say that they would have expected you to be a manager at this point, like your colleague XYZ, and how did that not happen? Of course, the only reason for that is to make you second guess yourself and remove your confidence, so that you will not be able to think clearly when the negotiation actually comes. So these are some of the excerpts or summaries, things I learned from this book. It's a very thin book, which I like very much. It's very efficiently written, and it is becoming the standard in multiple organizations, which I have been a part of for good reason. If you like this video, please give it a like. And if you did like this video, I think you will also like this one and this one. I thank you for joining, and I will see you in the next video.